the car! Now! I didn't do anything! Out, or I'll drag you out! You can't do this!
The engine roared like it knew the chaos coming. Officer Danvers, the self-proclaimed king of his small town, had a grin that could scare children and a badge that he thought made him invincible. Like when he spotted the black man cruising slowly in a sleek, matte black sedan, his eyes narrowed. "Oh, perfect," he muttered, slamming his squad car into gear, siren blaring like the prelude to someone else's nightmare. He had been waiting for a reason, any reason, to assert dominance, to remind the world who was in charge. And this man, with his dreadlocks swaying lazily in the wind, looked like he had just walked out of his worst nightmares. Probably another lazy city thug. Danvers laughed to himself, the kind of laugh that oozed arrogance and ignorance. He pulled him over, striding to the driver's window with a swagger born from years of thinking power could cover stupidity. "License and registration," he barked, tone dripping with condescension. The man behind the wheel didn't flinch, just stared. Calm, cool, and frustratingly unbothered. Danvers leaned closer, inhaling the scent of rebellion, ready to teach a lesson, ready to humiliate. He cracked a joke about driving while black, and for a fleeting second, his smirk felt like victory. But then the man's fingers brushed the leather dashboard, and a chill crept down Danvers's spine, one he couldn't explain. The tension was electric, unpredictable. Viewers, smash that like button and subscribe if you love watching arrogant jerks get what's coming. They never see it coming. Danvers's grin widened, sharp and cruel, as he circled the car like a lion inspecting a trapped gazelle. "License and registration. And don't think about playing smart with me," he spat, tapping his baton against the hood like a metronome of intimidation. The man inside didn't flinch, didn't even glance at him, just sat, calm, silent, watching Danvers's frustration bubble over. "You think you're tough sitting there like some gangster?" Danvers barked, voice rising. "I can ruin your day with one word." He leaned into the driver's window, trying to intimidate, hoping for a reaction. Nothing, not a twitch, not a hint of fear. His anger turned venomous. He stepped back, kicked the tire for good measure, his face twisted in disbelief that someone could sit so still under his authority. "Step out! Now!" he demanded, fists clenched, eyes blazing. When the man didn't move, Danvers yanked the door handle with a shove, nearly tipping the sedan. "Don't make me get rough," he growled, flexing like a fool, eager to demonstrate power. Every insult Danvers threw, every smirk, every jab at his supposed inferiority, met silence. The tension was electric, the street quiet, the world holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash. Danvers muttered curses under his breath, pacing back and forth, lashing out at air, at the tires, at the car itself. The man's calm gaze never wavered, and with each passing second, the officer's own hubris began to crack. He didn't realize he was teetering on the edge, that his cruelty, his racism, and his blind arrogance were sowing seeds for a reckoning he couldn't yet see. Danvers' patience snapped like a brittle branch. He slammed his palm against the roof, rattling the car, shouting, "I said step out, now!" His voice was venom, his ego exploding. The man behind the wheel stayed perfectly still, eyes cold and unflinching, as if daring him to act. Danvers' fists clenched so hard his knuckles cracked. He grabbed the door handle again, yanking like a man possessed, cursing under his breath, stepping back only to spit insults. "You think you can sit there, staring at me like that? I'll show you who's in charge." He stomped the ground, pacing, muttering every racial slur in the book, each one more absurd, more pathetic than the last. He kicked the tire, the car shuddering, and laughed at himself, convinced fear was imminent. "Step out, punk, or I'll drag you out myself." His words were a whip of arrogance, a symphony of cruelty. But the man didn't budge, not an inch. Danvers' temper boiled over. He reached for his baton, flexing it menacingly, circling, daring him to flinch. "I've dealt with your kind 100 times, scared little rats with attitude," he sneered, chest heaving. Every second, the man's silence was like salt on a wound, every pause a hammer pounding at Danvers' fragile pride. The officer's face twitched, a storm brewing inside him, and his arrogance turned reckless. He didn't notice the neighbors peeking from windows, the passerby slowing down, watching the meltdown unfold. Danvers was a volcano of hate, about to erupt, but the eruption wouldn't go his way. Danvers' face was red, veins bulging, hands shaking like a child as he lunged for the door one last time. "Step out!" he screamed, baton raised like a weapon of ultimate arrogance. The man inside finally moved, not with fear, but with the calm precision of someone who had waited his entire life for this moment. He opened the door, stepped out slowly, each movement deliberate, a predator masking patience. Danvers' smirk faltered as the man's hand brushed his jacket pocket. No hesitation, no flinch. FBI, the badge gleamed in the streetlight, cutting through Danvers' ego like a hot knife through butter. You can't, Danvers stammered, the words choking in his throat. Panic and humiliation collided in his eyes. The officer who had laughed at every black face in town, the man who had thought racism was armor, now faced a reckoning that left him trembling. The calm man in dreadlocks stepped closer, measured, controlled, his presence towering over Danvers's crumbling authority. "Do you really want to see what happens when you abuse your power?" he asked softly, deadly, letting every syllable land like a hammer. Danvers' attempts to protest, to assert dominance, collapsed instantly under the weight of consequences he hadn't imagined. Legal charges, public embarrassment, internal affairs, everything came crashing down like a perfectly timed avalanche. Neighbors, witnesses, passerby, all who had ever shrugged at his arrogance now watched his world implode. The man in dreadlocks didn't raise a hand violently. He didn't need to. Power, when real, humbles even the cruelest of hearts. Danvers's face went from rage to disbelief to pure, naked humiliation in seconds.